you order it, it's, you know,
Okay.
just order it like in 15 minutes or something, whatever.
Okay.
We're good, son?
We got it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So what time does this class actually start? At 11:45?
Yeah, so technically it starts at 11:45. Usually get the wait till then. More people drop in as time goes by. So it's up to you if you want to start now or if you want to wait.
Okay, well, we've got 4 participants on this call right now. I think we should wait until at least 11:40 and see where we're at, and then we can go from there.
All right, sounds good.
Here, my phone, in case calls come in. I have it on vibrate, so.
Right.
Did Shia just send me an, sorry. So how's the farming going, Eric?
It's going okay. I'm actually glad this is negotiation because I have a question.
Oh,
So,
goody.
yeah.
You want to throw me that question now before
Yeah,
everyone hops
I
on?
do actually because I want to know if there's anything else I could do. And since you seem to be a tough negotiator, which I want to be. So one of my clients, we looked at a place down in Long Beach in January. We submitted an offer above what my CMA said, but below what they were asking. And they've been on the market since last August.
Mhm.
They went in at 529 and then they dropped it in January to 489. We offered 470 and they didn't even counter back.
They didn't even counter?
They're the owner is the agent is also the owner, or it's her husband's. And so I was like, all right, no worries, that sucks. I get it. You want your price. So we are in a backup offer right now in West Hollywood for 550. So price wasn't the issue, it's just the comps and the appraisal. So I circled back with her a couple weeks ago on the 18th. And if have you decided to drop this? My client has a deadline of this weekend to be in the escrow, or she'll just wait until she gets back in the country in 4 months. She's like, oh, I want it. They just sent me a text today saying, but they would drop to 480. And I flew everything at them when I had you've been on the market for over 6 months, you have 2 offers in hand that were close in price. Is there anything else I could have said, but maybe would have worked to get them to consider it?
Eric, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that the comps won't come in, the appraisal?
Yeah, the client's afraid of the appraisal because she's a money manager. She's afraid the appraisal won't come in at 480.
But the thing is this, if you're not in a multiple offer and you're not giving up contingencies, I wouldn't be afraid to tell the clients, hey, this is what it's going to take to get get our foot through the door.
Mm-hmm.
And if the comps don't come in and the appraisal is not at this price, then we can definitely renegotiate and let them know that because of the appraisal value, you can renegotiate at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of my deals, we're not always necessarily closing at the price that we go in at. And this is some of the things that I advise my client, especially if you're going in with appraisal contingencies, they are protected. They have an opportunity to get back to the negotiating table if it doesn't come in. Now, in this type of market, we also understand that there's a lot of discrepancy with the appraisals. Appraisals don't always catch up to a market that's increased in value in such a rapid period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So your comps, although how precise it may be, may not actually be what is actual in the market, because it takes comps, appraisals, it takes 30 days for it to populate back into and actually be something that's relevant information. So that's another thing that you may want to approach with your buyer and give them the understanding that with the rapid increase in value in the property in like 17% on over 1 year's time, that is reflected in appraisal. That's also reflected in the comps that I'm providing for you. So saying that, giving a better understanding to your clients so that they understand that they're not actually giving away money, and then explaining the appraisal process of that, all that may also help your client to understand. And the main point is for you to secure the property first, get in there. You know, you guys are completely protected with contingencies, and go back, because you may also have to renegotiate after inspections. There may be things on that inspection report that, and you may end up at the price that you want to be anyways. So what I would say is, how motivated, what's the commitment level to this client? You obviously want this property, or the client wants this property for you guys have circled back as many times as you have. So
Right. She's I know she doesn't want to do 480 at all, because she doesn't, like, she's already crunched her numbers and everything like that, with her being
but
a
if
money.
she's a savvy investor, then she also understands that she can go in and renegotiate after, you know?
Mhm.
So
Right.
with full protection of her EMD, right?
Right.
So that's something that you may want to do as soon as you open escrow. The first thing you do is prepare your lender and say, hey, look, first thing I want out the gate is I want an appraisal report. And you have to, you have to already like be in the mindset that you're going to do everything you can to renegotiate that price down for her, But if the appraisal comes in, if the inspection goes well, you have to also give her, hey, then the value is been confirmed. There shouldn't be any question about having to commit to that price point, because it's not like she lacks the funds. She just she's lacking the validity of that price. So if you can provide that, then maybe she'll have a different approach to it, right? I went in non-contingent on a deal that I was repping the buyer. We came in 80,000 above asking price. And we still renegotiated during inspection. And this was out of 24 offers that we got our buyer in there. And they were very adamant in their counter, saying as is, no repairs, no renegotiations, all of that stuff. They did all of that. That's why we came in non-contingent, and still we ended up still renegotiating after inspections. And I got my clients at least another, I think about 15K off. So they were super stoked, didn't expect it, didn't anticipate for it, but there's other ways of leveraging renegotiations. Okay.
All right.
All right. So is this, so is that everybody? Six people on this call?
Christine, I got one question for you.
Sure.
You
Hi,
talked about a customized buyer consultation in another video.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way that I could get an example of that?
Buyer consultation.
Checklist.
So there's buyer consultations, I believe, on our command form, right?
Oh, are there?
Yes. Rob, is there buyer consultation on our command?
Let me, I think so. Let me do a search. I got your back.
It would be nice to see like an actual live buyer's consultation or like an example of someone doing one.
I actually used to do the buyer consultation for the Ignite. I did that class quite a few times, and you know, I was a buyer's agent on a team for a long time as well. So working with buyers is like I can do it with my eyes closed. So I completely understand what you guys need from that. Unfortunately, today's class is negotiating the deal. I think buyer's consult is in the Ignite itinerary. I just don't know who's actually doing that course. Okay.
You know,
But,
I think we might have Joey teaching buyer consultations on Thursday.
Tomorrow.
But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop the link in the chat just so you guys are able to see it. It's gonna be a big zip file. It will give you the actual presentation and all the materials as well if you are curious about it. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So maybe next Ignite, I'll do the buyer consult again, but for this time, I guess it's going to be Joey taking it over. And again, you know, Jenny, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and you know, I'll try to provide some guidance as much as I can. Okay.
Oh, that's sweet of you. We're starting now to get buyers, so that was actually the
Congratulations.
appropriate question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. I've never gone through really one, so yeah.
Yeah, you know, once you get through one, you'll be able to kind of assess what your needs are and how the approach goes and the method behind it all. So it's, you know, it's just a matter of one of the most important things about a buyer consult is providing all of the steps on the itinerary of what the process is for that individual, for those clients, so that they have a clear map of what they're doing. And then after that is gaining obviously their trust, and then obtaining that buyer exclusive. And it's so much more important nowadays because of the fact that there's so many platforms like Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, Realtors.com that end up pairing these people based on the interest with an outside agent. So you don't want to have another fast talking agent take your client away just because, you know, they happen to click on the button that released their information. You know what I mean?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. All right, my people, let's get on with what's going on with negotiating the deal. So Cameron, can we start, please? All right, so let me get to the page. So this session will be a breakdown and apply tactics to tackle common points of negotiations, analyze and recall counter tactics to make the negotiation a win-win, and examine the negotiation strategy of the 3 Ps: prepare, present, and position, and employ the strategies through the practical applications. Okay, so today these skills we're going to focus on is negotiating contracts. So negotiations are an integral part of the real estate transactions. Negotiations can be pivotal point in the transaction. It's important to find common ground and strive for win-win agreements. Negotiations can be a deal maker or a deal breaker. Absolutely, 100%. So what we'll focus on today is, so next page. Sorry, I'm looking at I'm looking at your set, and then I'm looking at my set. Okay. So it's going to be a 1-hour session. Break down the common points of negotiation, examining the 3 Ps approach to negotiation, analyze counter tactics, real play, employ the 3 Ps, recap, and create your success list, and daily success habits. Okay, we're going to break down the common points of negotiation in a transaction and learn how to apply tactics to tackle common points of negotiations. So here, explain that the negotiation is, okay. Negotiation is a bargaining process between two or more parties seeking to discover common ground, reaching an agreement to settle a matter or mutual concern or resolve conflict. So the graph here explains that the depicts the negotiation. The negotiation happens between a buyer or seller and their agent. It all happens between the agents involving the transaction. Negotiation also take place in two areas of transaction: the offer phase, which I was talking to Eric about, to get the negotiation. The goal of the negotiation is to get a contract, and the option period, this happens while under contract, and the goal is to close the contract. So what I was explaining to Eric was that sometimes you get into a contract or you get into a transaction, and you may end up having to renegotiate during transaction period, during the escrow period. Don't feel anxious about renegotiations. If you're on buyer side, definitely you want to use the leverage of the inspection report. You want to use the leverage of the appraisal report for renegotiations if possible. Even though I know everyone gets freaked out when you get this counter and it says, as is, seller will not make any, concessions on, inspections or appraisals, whatever. I've gotten ton of those all the time, and I still end up renegotiating, because when you're about 17 days into this transaction, most likely everyone is there to finish it out. No one wants to go through that process just as much as the seller and the listing agent. They don't want to go through it just as much as the buyers don't want to go through it again. So just letting you know, it's on an even playing field, even if they have multiple offers, because there is no guarantee that the backup offer won't do the same thing what they're doing. So as long as you're negotiating within reason, with integrity, then it should be a conversation that can be approached by both parties. And obviously the goal of the listing agent and the buyer's agent is to come to an agreement. So you close. Everyone's got the same goal, is to close the deal. Okay. Ask the participants to get in Okay, so they're asking us to get into a small group and talk about all of this stuff. I prefer not to get into these small groups, because I think we started off as a small group, right? So we can just kind of work this out as, within the group that we've got. Okay. So the things that we want to ask is, how can your ability to negotiate affect the outcome of the deal? What are some ways that you negotiate in your everyday life? Okay, so let's see the first question. How can your ability to negotiate affect the outcome of the deal? What is the answer, class? It's very
Do
simple.
you close or not?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the first thing is, the first negotiation would be the actual offer process, and the outcome would be getting your offer accepted or not accepted, right? So what are some ways that you negotiate in your everyday life? For those that have children, understand that question, right? You're negotiating with your kids every single day. Now, is there some other things that we can think about that we negotiate on our everyday life? Okay, crickets. Your family, right? I don't know what else we can really, we're not going to negotiate price on food or go to the market or anything. And, flea market is not one of our daily tasks to do. So what are skills that great negotiators possess? This is a good one. What do you guys think?
They listen.
Go
ahead, Eric.
They listen really well.
Absolutely. That's probably one of the most important skills that a negotiator would possess, is the ability to listen. And the reason why is because once you can listen to the other side, it provides leverage and insight, and it gives you guidance in how to approach that individual or that transaction. Jenny, did you have something?
Stay calm, stay professional.
100%. just letting you know that this is, yes, this is an extremely emotional business because you're dealing with the biggest asset of a person's life. So there's a lot of emotion involved. Even with investors, it's not just numbers all the time. There's a lot of emotions involved in real estate. And for a representative, one of the skills that we should possess that will give us leverage is the ability to filter what we say and how we say it, and making sure that we're not burning bridges, and making sure that counters or rejections, objections, all that stuff, it's not personal. Take all of that personal feeling, set it aside, and then just store that away in a different box, and understanding that that comes with your personal life. With business, nothing is personal. I've been in negotiations with colleagues that are friends that just didn't work out, but I have to make sure that I'm not taking that personally, okay? And vice versa as well. Why is asking questions important when negotiating?
Like, for example, seeing if the owner, is it owner occupied? Is it vacant? Is it like, do they want you to move in right away? Do they want to do a lease back?
Yep. All of those things that Jenny just mentioned are major factors that you want to understand prior to making that offer, because one of my offers that got accepted was because I understood that the sellers needed some time because they were moving out of state. There was going to be a lapse, but they needed the money in order to secure secure their replacement property. So in my contract, one of the things that I had offered, and I had explained to my client what the leverage would be on that, and was lease back. Now, sometimes we can lease back with a PITI, which is principal, interest, tax, and insurance. But sometimes, if you offer a lease back of, let's say, a month or two, free lease back, then you have definitely offered a big leverage to those sellers as well. Okay. So understanding what the seller's needs are, or understanding what the buyer's needs are to negotiate and have a successful meeting and agreement in that contract is vital. Okay, it's vital to the success of the close. So let's see here. Let's turn to page 4. And it says there's possible 3 outcomes. The offer can be accepted, rejected, or countered. If the offer is rejected or countered, that is where the negotiation skills can shine. So if we can brainstorm right now and come up with issues that are potential of coming up during the buyer or selling process.
Like no response?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And I've actually run into agents that have given no response to an offer. So that does happen, not often, but it does absolutely happen. What's another thing?
I think right now in the market is, do you offer the appraisal contingency or not?
That's a big term right now in this market. It's not very common. I've been in 2 cycles, and I'm going to tell you, this is the first time I've ever seen so many clients jumping to and agreeing to waiving contingencies on appraisals, contingencies on inspections. I mean, people are coming full geared and releasing all protection with their buyers. I personally don't like to do that. It makes me concerned, but also I have done that numerous times, understanding, but the clients are fully aware of the scenario. They are fully aware of the worst that can happen and the best that can happen. And if you gain confidence from the clients, they're willing to listen to your guidance. And this is where you're going to have to shine with your negotiation skills, because you have to have the confidence that, hey, we can come in this way, but I'm still going to be able to protect you, because hopefully you still have at least the loan contingency, which is the longest contingency that you have. Okay. So if the prior negotiations don't work and it doesn't work out, at least the EMD is protected. Okay. And one of the big things is if you have a full appraisal, if you have a no appraisal contingency, the biggest advice that I can give to you guys is prior to opening escrow, get on that horn, talk to the buyer's lender, make sure that the appraisal is issued ASAP, get in the same wave with the escrow officer to get that draft out to you ASAP so that the lender can have all of the information. Without that information, they cannot issue an appraisal. So, retrieve that as fast as you can. I've had to issue appraisal the morning we opened escrow. I've had inspections done the morning we opened escrow, just so that I know that I can work within the timeline. So it's a matter of how fast you can react, making sure that you have all of these resources already set up for you, okay? So know which inspection company you're going to be going to, even calling them ahead of time and say, we're tentatively about to open escrow. I want to tentatively have an inspection appointment set up. And if we do get our offer into escrow, I want to make sure I have secured that appointment. And inspection companies are willing to give you a tentative appointment. Just letting you know that as long as you follow back up with them, and they give you roughly about 24 hours to do so. Okay. So anything else that you guys can think of, part of, what else are we negotiating during transactions besides obviously price?
I'm from inspection.
Yeah.
I had one of my friends put in an offer and he lost because they did 3 days inspection period, which is insane.
Yeah. I've closed escrow in 3 days before, but I'm telling you, 3 days is rough. I give myself about 5 days. If I'm super, super crazy aggressive, I give 5 days of inspection. So I have my inspection companies, I have 1, 2, 3 lined up. So I know that I can secure an appointment with at least one of the 3 that I've got lined up. Okay.
So
So
you do a
there's-
tentative appointment with all 3 of them?
I find out which one has the availability. So I have a tentative inspection schedule with one of the 3 that is available. I don't schedule with all 3. Okay. Another thing that sometimes we do is closing costs, right? What else is added to the sale? I had a listing. We needed to come full asking. The buyer offered full ask in exchange for some of the furniture that came with the property that was kind of more ideal fitted for that unit. So that was something that we used as a leverage to get that full price, but we accommodated by giving away some of the furnitures that my client wasn't going to really need to take in our next replacement property. So that's another tactic that you can use as well in the listing side to bring up the price. Okay. Everyone talks about closing costs, asking seller to take care of closing costs. I've never really seen that happen. And I don't see too many sellers really wanting to participate in something like that. But if your buyer needed closing cost credit, another avenue to exhaust is your lenders. Lenders get compensated like commissions, same thing as us, right? So per file that they close. You'd be surprised to know there are more lenders willing to give a little break on the closing costs to the clients to make the deal happen. I have some of my lenders forfeiting up to $5,000 of closing costs. So some of my retail lenders, and obviously I've given them tremendous amount of files to obtain that type of relationship with them. But that's what you also want to do. You want to have your go-to lenders that you work with. I usually have about 3 that I have a go-to lender for. I have specifically for, let's say, stated income buyers. I've got for, full doc buyers. I've got for my SBA commercial buyers and so on. You know what I mean? So you want to have that conversation and also manage that type of relationship with them. And some of these lenders are very happy to even participate even from the marketing process of your new listing so that they can pre-qualify people. I have brought my lender in on some of my listings and they have pre-qualified the buyers. And in that process, they've actually been able to win out their existing lender and take it, and then they become the actual lender for the buyer, even though I'm the listing agent. That helps me also to have a like an actual clear view of how qualified these buyers are, and then to making sure that they're going to close and that the buyers are doing everything that the lender is advising them to do. And I get inside tips from my lender, obviously, because she has a relationship with me, right? So, and then she gets a deal from that too, even if, you know, because lenders like buyer's agents, because that's who they work with, buyer's agents. They're not working as much with listing agents, you know, unless they're pre-qualifying people. And even though my clients get pre-qualified with the listing side, far and rare do they actually end up with them, because I advise against it, because I'd rather have them work with a lender that I'm familiar with. I've had times where my clients have come in with their own private lenders, and it has become a hot mess because I don't have that relationship with them. And so I'm not getting the type of follow-ups, updates that I'm accustomed to with my lenders. So that's another thing that you guys can talk about as far as leveraging. So closing costs is something you may want to talk with your lenders for, okay? Let's turn to page 5 of your workbook, common points of negotiation. So I think this is kind of like what we've already gone over. Some closing costs, like I said, you know, I don't see sellers really giving up the closing costs. So what I would do is talk to the lender. The lenders are more likely to do that. Another closing cost is when you're at the tail, before you open escrow, or when you open escrow, you can ask the escrow company, please send us a buyer's estimate sheet. What that is it's a estimate of what buyer's closing cost may be. There's a definite cushion. They always put a cushion. It's about $1,000 to $2,000 a cushion that they put in. Okay, so some of the fees are going to be like processing fees, going to be like, you know, $500. When in actuality, it may actually be only $350. You know what I mean? Messenger fees, they tack on about $300. It may actually only be $200, or you may never end up using a messenger because, you know, the client goes to the escrow company, or, you know, so there's ways of that. So the estimate sheet will be a clear understanding for the buyer what to anticipate. And then from there, if you have an escrow company that you work with, for you guys, you could always exhaust Largemont escrow, because that's what they're there for the agents in this office. And what you can do is do a comparison and say, hey, do these fees look right? And you can start negotiating closing costs with escrow directly and say, hey, I believe that these costs are a little, you know, exaggerated. I think that maybe we can address some of these costs first, and ask them, hey, buyers need a little bit of a break. Can you renegotiate some of these fees for them? And escrow companies will do that within reason to make the deal close. Okay. I have certain savvy buyers that renegotiate before we even get to our contingency period, because they want to know what that is. Don't wait till the end, because with the lender has already gotten the final numbers from escrow, it's a big deal to get those numbers changed, okay, without having major delays. So this is something you want to address in the very beginning, okay? That's another avenue of negotiating as well. Closing date, obviously, you want to know what's going to work best for the seller and for the buyer, and then try to see if it's mutual. Conveyance, contingencies, all that stuff, you know, we've already discussed. Earnest money is, EMD is 3% in LA. That's not always the case, guys. If you're doing a deal outside of LA, sometimes there are some towns, I've done escrow up north in Northern California, and the AEMD is 1%. I was blown away in the fact that it was only 1%, but it is what it is. There's some certain areas that have their own different protocol for it. Like even Fresno has a different earnest money requirement, which is also, I think, 1.5% or something like that. Okay. And then repairs. Even if you go into a deal that is as is, you do your inspections. Let's say there's a roof issue. What you want to do is you want to bring out a roofer. You want to get an estimate. You want to find out what the cost of that repair is going to be. If it's excessive, that's something that you have to bring to the table and say, hey, look, this is something that's come up in the inspection. If it was minor, we'd obviously overlook it, but if this is not a minor issue, I think that we need to have a conversation about this. The buyer's requesting that the seller credit them or repair or whatever to make it work, okay? So those are things that you wanna definitely renegotiate if you can, or you have the opportunity to renegotiate what I'm saying. Okay, any questions on this portion so far? None? Okay. So move on to page 6. So let's go through the negotiation tips. All right. So Jenny, why don't you read 1 through 3?
I don't have the,
Oh.
I just jumped on the Zoom call without the packet.
Oh, you did? Okay. Who's got
Sorry.
the packet in front of them? Lance, do you have the packet in front of you?
Yeah, I'm scrolling down. Negotiation tips, is that the,
Yeah, page 6.
okay, yeah. Above all else, or number 1, above all else, be professional. Number 2, remember your goal assigned contract. This is what you're driving toward, and it's what both agents and their clients have in mind. Number 3, control what you say to anyone involved in the transaction. If you create anxiety in your client or other parties, you're reducing their leverage in negotiations.
Good. One of the big things that we have to really keep to heart is being a professional. This is a professional, this is a business. This is not, you know, what real estate may have been 50 years ago, you know? So you have to treat it like a business, and your demeanor and your attitude towards your colleagues and your clients is so relevant. There are times where I specifically will not deal with a certain agent only because based on their proven inability to be a professional through a transaction. And that has hurt them in opportunities because they'll come to me and ask me for opportunities with my listings and I won't give them any. I won't give them any leeway whatsoever. I'm not very accommodating in the conversations because I know that they're not, you know, they don't hold their professionalism to a high standard. Okay. So our reputation with our clients is really important, but our reputation with our colleagues, I would say, is a little bit even more important, to be honest with you, because clients come and go, but these colleagues that you're working with, they're here and you're going to constantly be meeting them again, approaching, you know what I mean, in those opportunities again. Okay, so keep to heart. Eric, you want to read 4 to 6?
Yeah. Number 4, continually refer to motivation, remind your client why they want to buy or sell and help them reevaluate the request if they are becoming unreasonable. Number 5, don't reveal too much, listen more than talk, keep your client's motivation close to your chest. And number 6, don't be attached to the outcome. You can get everything you and your clients want all the time. Don't let it affect your mindset if a deal doesn't go through or if your client doesn't act on your recommendation. Find a different win for your client.
Yeah, definitely refer to motivation. You want to keep on making sure that you're on the same page with the clients, reminding them of why they chose that particular property or what made them activate to make that offer. This also, you know, goes to your sellers as well, making sure that they're motivated as far as pricing is concerned, you know, the type of showing schedules that are allowing accommodating. Sometimes I'll have a seller and it's like, well, I don't want to show my property. I'll only show it at this time, at this convenience and whatever. And it doesn't work out that way. And I have a very firm talk with my sellers and let them know that I have to make sure that the property is available. Now, if I've got sellers that have got kids, then yes, I take that into consideration. and I'll move it all to a certain day or certain, but you have to make sure that you get your clients proactive with the goal. Okay, making sure that we're all on the same page of getting to the goal, to the finish line. Okay, making sure that you listen to your clients, whoever they are, if they're the sellers or the buyers, and understanding where they're coming from and what their importance is. And don't be attached to the outcome. Absolutely. There's so many times that I have you can't get everything that you want. Even Christina doesn't get everything I want. Okay. So just kind of letting you go with that. All right.
If you, I guess this is like a specific example, but if your client, let's say, sees like a $2 million house and they are only pre-qualified up to 1.9, but they still want to look at it,
I would show it to them.
you show it to them and put an offer in, even if it's at 2.
Sure. Hey, I just closed escrow on Monday, which was yesterday. Okay. I just closed escrow on a property. It was listed for 2.25. It was a firm 2.25. And they adjusted the price down to 2 million. We offered at 1.9. We went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then we ended up coming at a solid 2. And then she wanted to go back to 2.25. So telling you that, but then, my client was only, her cap was 2. The property was at 2.25. We showed it anyways. She saw it anyways. And we waited and I made sure that I was in a positive conversation with the listing side, letting them know that, and I pulled comps to understand if that price was actually the accurate price for it. And, it wasn't, based on the features of the home. And so the listing agent agreed. They had adjusted the price. We circled back and we said, hey, we're ready to, negotiate something. And we ended up getting my client paid her full cap limit of $2 million for that home. But the seller also came down to 2.25K from that as well. Okay. So if you've got a client, their budget is 2 million. I mean, their budget is 1.9, but they want to look at a 2 million home. I would say advise and look at it, because you can always have an opportunity to renegotiate. You can have an opportunity to negotiate that price. Just because it's listed at a certain price doesn't mean that's the accurate price, right? And it's our job as professionals to guide our clients to making sure, one, if that price is accurate. And if you have some hesitation, talk to the co-op agent, to the listing agent. They know if it's priced wrong, they know too.
Like
they will.
This particular price was actually, it was priced right. Like it was priced very well. And they had tons and tons of people looking at it. And I did call the other agent. The other agent said they don't think it would go, it would go at that price or above.
It won't go
so
on.
At that point, I was like, I don't know that it's, they should go see it and put an offer in if they have, if they're already expecting offers, in that kind of situation.
Well, this is where you have to convey, Jenny, to the client and say, and disclose to them the conversation you have with the listing agent, that they've had a lot of attention on this property, that they've got anticipations for multiple offers, that they've got anticipation to go above ask, if not at ask. With all of those factors in mind, if your client says, I still want to see it, I would show it to them. Understanding all of that, because sometimes a client will say, I could only do 1.9. But there's ways of leveraging and getting to that price. If they love that house, they will make it happen. Clients are more well aware of their finances than we are, right? So even though, like, my client will tell me, I have a client right now that we started off, his budget was 650. We were looking at the 650s. All of a sudden he says to me, I don't like any of the houses in the 650 mark. I want to look in the 700. So we started looking at the 700s. Now our budget is 880. Okay. So what I'm saying to you is that people's budgets, even though the lender says they're qualified for this amount, they can always, because that's based on the information that the buyer has provided to the lender. There may be information that hey, they can borrow a little bit more from their family, or they, you know what I mean? They can somehow, if that property justifies it for them as an individual, right? They will make it happen, Jenny. I would not personally close the door before they can even try.
Yep.
Okay. So let's go to the overview of the 3 Ps, approach to negotiations. Negotiation is a skill. I agree. It is something that can be learned and perfected with experience. The best practice for negotiation and bringing the buyer and seller together is using the 3 Ps. Prepare. Preparation is key to building confidence and ensuring a smooth negotiation process. Present. Move into negotiation process by presenting your offer. Position. Move both parties close until you have full agreement. The negotiation starts from the way you present yourself, from the first conversation that you have with a listing agent. Okay, it starts from there. How you rapport with them, it sets the tone. How you present the offer. I know I've had agents that have sent me an offer with just the offer, which is, I'm not even going to look at that. I'm not even going to consider that a real offer. If it doesn't have the pre-qual letter, if it doesn't have the POF, if it doesn't have, you know, all of the things that makes it a full package, I'm not even going to consider that a real offer. Yes, Eric.
Do you ever do a cover sheet when you put an
Letter to
offer?
seller?
No, like, you know, if you go into Zip forums, it like kind of breaks down like the offer, you know.
I do. I do,
Okay.
but I do that cover sheet in my email, and it makes it so nice for that agent to really understand what you're offering. So I have in my email offer that I send to the listing agent, you know, obviously it's a brief intro, and I thank them first for the opportunity to have seen the property. I encourage them and say that, you know, I have extremely well qualified buyers who are very motivated and emotionally involved in the property. Okay. And it's about a 2 to 3 sentence paragraph in the very intro. And then I tell them this is the overview of our offer. Then I put in the purchase price. I put in a contingency periods of how many days of inspection contingency, how many days of appraisal contingency, and the loan contingency periods. Okay. I tell them that who's responsible for what, how much money that we want for the home warranty. Okay. We also discuss, I put into the overview as well, who is responsible for all of the transfer tax, if there's any HOA dues, HOA, all of that stuff. I put it all in that front page of my email. So I have the entire overview for that agent to refer to. And then I asked them, and then I also provide a letter to seller with some, you know, tear jerking ways of getting them emotionally involved in my client as well. But it all starts from that first initial call. And before I make that offer, I don't care if I've spoken with that agent at the showing, I still call them again and I tell them, hey, I'm submitting this offer. Prior to submitting, I wanted to get a little bit of feedback from you. I want to make sure that my clients can come in as strong as possible. So, and then, you know, listing agents, their job is to talk to you, and their job is to make sure that they get a lot of buyers and participating in bidding for that property. And if you have an agent, if I have a buyer's agent that approaches me and say, hey, what does your seller need? I'm going to tell them, I need this, and I need this in order to make the seller happy. And if they're invested enough, that's what you'll get what you need instead of having to fight for it. Just ask for it. You know, you'd be surprised. They'll just offer it, you know? So, and then it makes you the rock star to your seller, right? So let's turn to page 8. So let's see here. Okay, the first thing is preparations. Preparations Preparation steps agents can take to build confidence to help ensure a smooth negotiation process. Knowing your goal, knowing your client, thinking ahead, setting clear expectations, being informed, and obeying the law, and knowing the documents inside and out. Okay. I think, we've been obviously talking about this a lot, is knowing the goal, obviously setting the right motivation and expectation level for your clients and for the co-oping agent as well. Let's see here, and both buyer and seller satisfied with the outcome of the, yeah, so. Yeah, absolutely. So definitely knowing the goal is really important. If you're representing the buyer and you realize that the buyer needs to move into a place by a certain set date based on their, for instance, most of buyers are renting, right? So if you got a renter buyer and they've got a, also that's another thing that you want to work with their timeline is sometimes these buyers think that they close because close of escrow, let's say close of escrow is for February 28th. And they put in their lease termination date for February 28th. That is the worst thing that a buyer can do in a rental property is because escrows don't always fulfill the estimated timeline. There are more delays than not, even if it's a day delayed. I've had renters be homeless if they didn't follow with the protocol, the timeline that I had set up for them. And I tell them, don't give their notice until we have released contingencies, then give your 30-day notice. And I always tell them it's better to have an overlap of 2 weeks so that they can adjust their movers and get all of that taken care of, because sometimes securing a mover itself takes a week or two, okay? So, and packing is always a murder and hell, and people are always more delayed than not. I've never seen anyone ready to pack and go of the day without having an all-nighter the night before, so those are the things that you want to talk about. Knowing your client, making sure you fully understand your client's goals, obviously that's another thing. Thinking ahead, like I said, anticipations, you know what I mean, knowing the timelines of what the clients need to do. Having during that buyer consult is that full timeline of what you're doing as a buyer's agent and what the buyer's anticipation is. That is where you do that buyer's consult, and that timeline should be constantly reflected and referred back to with your clients and say, hey, look, and this is where the command timeline opportunities thing that they promote, which is good, is that clients can be informed of the checklist. Inspection done, checked off. Appraisal issued, checked off. Stuff like that. Disclosures, checked off. Have we done the request for repair? You know what I mean? All that stuff, that timeline, right? Preparing for the move, preparing for securing the movers, securing, you know what I mean? All that next step after the close of escrow as well, making sure that the close of escrow falls in the date of where they're comfortable as well. If you're closing escrow on Monday, then just making sure that with their work schedule, all of that fits into timeline. Okay. One thing that a lot of people are not going to tell you is this: if you guys fund on Friday and you close on Monday, just letting you know, your buyer pays for those 2 days of interest, even though they have not fully legally obtained title on that property. Just letting you know that. So those close dates are also important as well. If you want to protect your buyer from additional cost of interest, close at the end of the week, not in the Monday of that week. Otherwise, your clients have lost 2 days of interest. Okay. But if your client doesn't care and that's the timeline that, then it is what it is. But I'm just giving you insight on things that you may not know as a new agent. Setting clear expectations. Yes, this is big deal. Again, like I said, some of these clients think that when you close escrow on that anticipated date. That doesn't always happen. Give them, making sure that they have clear expectations of what is happening, the timelines and all that stuff. Okay. Be informed before making an offer or counter offer. It's good practice to speak with 2 other agents. Ask open-ended questions, ask active listening to find out as much as you can about other party and their agents. This helps you know with whom you are negotiating, what points you will negotiate, and where in your client have leverage. Personally, I don't do this often. There are some deals that I have reached out to other seasoned agents for feedback. For instance, I was in negotiations for a flip property. So you can imagine the listing agent put it at an incredibly low price. This was right before COVID. And there was about 20 offers on this property. We went in 250,000 above ask. And then COVID hit. There was a lot of delays on the sellers for their title issues. We ended up renegotiating twice on that property and ended up closing at list price. So that's just, just making sure that, and I did that, and I reached out to actually Pete Bonacore from our office, and I picked his brain about it, understood what the expectation was. And he also had a past relationship with the listing agent. So I also received feedback on what type of agent he is, how to maneuver and approach this particular agent who wasn't easy. So he was able to give me some input and know-how so that I can have more leverage. So from the first day of showing, I knew that he was a total by the book type of agent. So I made sure I had that appointment confirmed with him. I made sure that I had followed his instructions on how the PED was prepared and forwarded to him. All of those things made my first impression a positive impression on him, so. And obviously everyone needs to obey the law, right? We're all law-abiding citizens in this group, aren't we? Minus Rob. Is
He's
Rob-
important.
Okay. And then knowing the documents inside and out. Obviously, you guys should have known this through contracts, right? You guys should know what the disclosures are, what they mean. And you better know them because clients are going to ask you to explain it to them. And if you don't know what you're asking them to sign, they're going to lose a lot of confidence in you. Know your contracts. I couldn't even say that that's one of the most important things, knowing your contracts.
So if we use like Raha, like a transaction coordinator, does she do all the paperwork?
She does, but when I first joined, when I first became a real estate agent and I was a new agent, one of the things that my office required us to do was that they required us to close 3 transactions. Be ourselves, even with the assistance of the TC, we were required to close 3 transactions on our own, supervising mainly. And it's because otherwise, if you use a TC from the first transaction, it's great. You get the paperwork done, but you've learned nothing.
Okay,
What are you going to do? What are you going to do when your buyer asks you, what am I signing? What does this arbitration mean? Or what does this mean? You know what I mean? All of that stuff, you have to know. So
yeah.
I would, I don't know. I mean, I know that Raha doesn't have the time to go over contracts with you line by line or step by step. And this is where you have to read the contract. You have to attend the contract classes and you have to ask questions when you can, right? So that's another form of being prepared. Okay. Let's see here. Let's go to the next page. Ooh, yes, this one. So let's do page 9. Let's do a scenario. So you're representing a single buyer. Your client is renting her present property Like any first-time buyer, she's looking to you to guide her through the process. The asking price for the home she really loves is $175,000. The house appears to have evidence of roof leak, is listed as is, and is correctly priced. Your client would like to keep her payment as low as possible since she still has a number of student loans to pay off. She wants to write an offer for 155. There has been quite a bit of activity on the listing. What is the questions that you want to ask the client?
Are you prepared to lose this home?
Absolutely. You know, another way of saying it is, because sometimes if you say, are you prepared to lose this home, may not sit too well. You know, you want to say, how committed are you to this home? You know, what is your motivation level to securing this home, right? And is this one of those homes that if you miss the opportunity, is this something that you will find remorse and regret later? You know, so that's something that you want to understand. What's another question that you would ask your clients for in this scenario? Maybe understanding what a multiple offer scenario looks like, giving them understanding of that. Some of these first-time buyers don't understand what a multiple offer scenario looks like, right? You know, is she willing to compromise on things for that price? You know, is she willing to compromise and say, buyer to purchase as is, will not be asking for any repairs, requests, or credit, right? Stuff like that, you know, just giving her some sort of leverage. And, you know, is she willing to compromise on contingencies? Is she willing to compromise on timeline? Whatever. It's got to be a give and take. She can't say, well, you know what? I want to obtain all of my contingencies, protect myself, and then offer low. And then you're going to have to obviously inform the client what's going on in the market, what's the scenario, have that conversation with the listing agent so that you have actual vital information that you can relay to the client to give them absolute understanding. Okay. Any input? Anyone else?
I mean, I have a scenario of my first buyer that I don't know if, I don't think I exactly answered it right.
What is the
Because
scenario?
I started laughing. She said that she had looked at a house. They said they weren't going to list it for a month because the owner was going to make repairs. And then she found out the next day that they just ended up selling it like a day or two later. So she's actually looking at a different area now. So that was over in Thousand Oaks.
Mhm.
She said she wants a local realtor. She wants a barracuda. She wants someone to fight for her. She wants someone that's going to get her the house with multiple offers.
So this was a listing agent. So
This is a buyer, my first buyer.
okay,
Conversation.
So she wanted someone with exceptional negotiation skills.
Yeah, like
right?
She said, I want someone experienced. I want someone that knows what they're doing. This other agent didn't obviously know that house was going to go for sale. And then she knows it's competitive. She knows there's multiple offers. So she wants a barracuda and she wants, you know, someone to fight for her.
Okay. And your reaction to that was a laugh?
I laughed because I don't know why. I have no idea why I started laughing. I really don't know why. And then I said, of course, yeah. I don't even know what I said. I just started laughing.
Did you end up closing with her?
This was just a few days ago. She's still moving forward. I mean, of course I responded. I don't remember exactly, but I know my initial response was, I think the barracuda made me laugh. I don't know. Maybe I was nervous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we moved along in the conversation and I, you know, I told her I understood her concerns that there is multiple offers. It is a competitive market. It is a seller's market.
But she, you know, the misconception is that she's relying on the agent to obtain and secure that property solely based on their skill. And it doesn't work like that. There's a huge part that the client plays in their ability to come up to what is needed to make that deal happen. You know, at the end of the day, is the buyer willing to give the seller what they're asking for? You know, so, you know, when a buyer says, I need a Barracuda, yeah, but are you willing to come up to what the Barracuda is requesting of you? Right?
I did ask her, I tend to laugh a lot. I did ask her, or I mean, I did mention that, you know, everything's probably going to be at ask or over in her price range. And she agreed to that, like, you know.
And also some of these like high profile clients are not willing to work with clients, high profile agents. They're not willing to work with clients unless if the client is not willing to cooperate and do what it takes to make the deal happen. You know, I've got certain clients that are telling me, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then I say, hey, look, this is what it takes to get this house. And if they don't step up, there's nothing else I can do. We are there to advise, but we're also there to relay information. And if they don't take to heart and pivot their approach to secure with the information provided, then you can't do any more than that. You know, I had a seller, I told him, hey, look, we got an offer off market. This is a clean cash offer. I say, let's take it. He refused. He disregarded my advice. We are still on the market 8 months later, and we've reduced the price to what was offered to him day one. And he can't say anything to me.
I think she would do whatever I would suggest. I think she would come up and pay at ask or over. I didn't know how to like present myself as I'll fight for you. I'll be a Barracuda. Like my response to that particular was like, just like a giggle. And I don't know how other realtors would handle that.
Well, I don't think the giggle would have been, sorry, the giggle is not the most appropriate thing, the reaction to what she was saying, because she's obviously conveying that she's aggressive and she wants someone just as aggressive on her side to fight for her, right? Then you have to, as the buyer's rep, you have to say, look, I can understand I understand how your motivation level. I am there with you. I want to get as aggressive as possible. If you allow me to do so on your behalf, that's what I'm here for. My main goal is to get you the best deal for the property that you want. You know,
Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. I wanted to know your response. I appreciate that.
Okay.
That's helpful.
Okay. All right, so let's go on to.
5 minutes.
Huh?
5 minutes
What?
for this to conclude.
Oh, okay. So, okay, position. So this class ends in 5 minutes. So there's some stuff, I usually go through this pretty fast, but I guess today we got a lot to cover. So position. So the second P is position, is moving both parties closer to each other until you have a full agreement. Where the buyer and seller agree and are at the same position, they identify which positions may easily adjust, which are set in the stone. I don't know if that's really the case, because like I said, even if you get into contract, you get into escrow, those terms are not set in stone until you record, you know, until contingencies are removed, nothing is actually set in stone, you know? So, ask what and how questions to better understand the other party's values and why certain things are important to them. For instance, I had a client come to us and say in their request for repair, they wanted certain things done. And yeah, you have to ask them, why is that important? You know, so for some people it was like, hey, I want some of the touch-up paints done because I don't have time to do that because I have to move in the day after we close escrow, stuff like that. So everyone's got, whatever it is, everyone's got a reason there's a motivation behind their request. Our job is to find out the deep root of their thought. Okay. And we're definitely not mind readers. So having regular conversations, being very transparent, expecting that type of transparency from your client is something that we want to continue to practice on, right? I've heard scenarios of agents not communicating with their clients, which is the worst thing you can do. And even if you've been with a buyer and you've wrote multiple offers, you can easily still lose those buyers. You have to be in their face, communicating with them on a very regular basis, especially if you're in the active stage of your relationship with them. They're actively buying or selling. Positioning is a process, sometimes requires you to come back to the negotiation table more than once. Sometimes several counteroffers will be necessary to negotiate an acceptance. In this market, usually it's not going back and forth too many times. It's usually like, I would say to my buyers at this market, I'd say, put your best foot forward. Put your best foot forward and approach this like you're not going to get a counter and best and final. That's how you should approach it right now in this market. Okay. Everyone thinks, well, we'll wait for a counter. We came up $30,000. We're willing to come up 50 grand, but then we won't do it on the first try. That's just the stupidest move right now. A sure way of losing, okay? Because there's another agent out there like me encouraging buyers to say, put your top number now, and then we'll deal with it if we actually get a counter, okay? And if you don't get what you want, do not burn bridges. Again, it affirms what I said. Your relationship with your colleagues is absolutely vital. If you don't get into a property, let's say, and you have good rapport with that listing agent, the first thing you need to do is ask them, hey, do you have anything else coming up on the market that you can give me insight on? You obviously know we've got qualified buyers and very aggressive, and we are in the market to purchase something. So if you've got something else coming up in the area with these criteria, similar criteria, if you can give me a courtesy call or a courtesy email to update me that when it's coming up, so I don't lose the opportunity to view that property with my clients and make an aggressive offer and make a second attempt in working with you. Working with that agent is what you want to perk up to them, okay? And say, I would love the opportunity to work with you. I think you're an amazing agent. And unfortunately, this didn't work out this time, but okay? And then the last P is, was that the last P? Prepare, position. What's that? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, prepare, present, and position. So we went through that present. So when you guys are presenting your offers, have that cover page in your email. I've had more success with that than the offer itself. And what it does is it sets the tone for the listing agent to know what type of agent that they will be working with. They will be working with an agent who is extremely responsive, attention detailed, and professional. Those are the things that they're looking for. They know that they have to be married to that agent for 30 days and they'd like to be in a marriage, a happy marriage, as opposed to a confrontational marriage, right? Like we all. All right, guys, it is the end of the Ignite class. I hope that the information I provided for you were helpful. Is there any questions that you guys have for me?
I got one for you.
Sure.
Have you ever have you ever been a little bit more aggressive where you tell, you just hash it out at the property, like the owner's there in like a separate room?
Yeah, I have.
Does that normally work out?
Yeah.
All right.
As especially in this market. So I've had opportunities where the sellers were there. And so they spoke with my clients. They end up liking my clients so much that we ended up getting the deal, even though we weren't the top number. Or they come back to me and say, hey, look, this is the scenario. I know the seller the seller likes your clients. I'd like to work with you. Can you get your client up to this? They give me that. So that rapport with that co-op agent is so important. You know, there was this thing that was going through one of our ALC chats, and it was like this agent that had sent the listing agent a blank offer with just the buyer's signature on it. It was the funniest thing. And then the buyer's agent said, we're tired of writing offers. Just have the seller fill it out and sign. You know, that's kind of the typical market that we're in right now. So for buyers, they just have to put their best foot forward. Obviously, taking into account how long that property's been sitting on the market, has it been priced right? What's the set of motivations that the seller has? What is of their priority to them? Is it just pure price? Is it terms? You know what I mean? All of that stuff. It all takes into account. So the big thing, guys, is if I was to tell you anything from this whole class is with far as negotiation is the ability to retrieve as much information about the other side as possible. That's how you're going to assess, approach with your clients, and providing the information so that your clients can make an informed decision. Without that information, they're making decisions in the dark, right, guys? Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
I know Jenny and Eric, I've seen you guys repeats in the Ignites, so I'm glad you guys are sticking with it. Lance, good to see you today. Nice to meet you. And
I just like your style. So.
Yeah, you're hard nosed.
I'm a little abrasive when I need to be, but you'd be surprised when I'm on the buyer side, dude, I am sucking it up, making sure that I look like I'm going to be their next best friend. Okay? You have to pull out all the tricks in the book to get there, because if you're not doing it, someone else is, right? And I know that some people have this mixed feelings about the letter to seller. I encourage it. I encourage them to get as sappy, as detailed about the property. I don't do it generic. I tell them, what did you like about that property? What was the seller's big feature? If the seller's so proud of this new thing that they have just put in, that's what you want to mention. That you're complimenting them on that job, you're complimenting the aspects of that house, you know, you're complimenting the love and care that they put into that home, and that you're promising that you'll take over and continue that love and care.
What
Lay
we were
it on thick, guys. Lay it on thick.
So they just responded that the seller is interested in her offer, but wants to wait another 10 days to see if there's more interest. What would you say to that? Because I can get this done today, but
I would say that while you wait the 10 days, this buyer may not be around. Are your sellers willing to take that risk? And are you going to be responsible for that if you don't get what you want and you don't get the interest? Because this property's been on the market, it's stale. You're not a hot new inventory that everyone's looking at right now. So all those that have looked have come and gone, so, ask the listing agent, are you willing to take the risk if we're not here anymore and you're going to have to answer to your client? I would advise that you encourage your client to take us seriously and to address and approach us.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
No problem, guys. Any other questions? Any aha moments? Nothing?
Oh, it was great. It was great.
Well, yeah, it's a business, but when I hear you speak, I feel like I got to sit up straight and, take things extra seriously. So yeah, I get it.
Well, this is a very serious business. We're dealing with people's biggest assets of their lives. If we don't take it seriously, who is? We have to watch out for the best interest of our clients. That's our main goal. And you have to reiterate that to the clients. My job is to protect and make sure that I am watching out for your best interest. And that's what my goal is. So Jenny, when you have that buyer, you tell them, there's no one that's going to look out for your best interest better than me. That's the bottom line. Okay.
I mean, I think that's where scripts would help me. Because, I haven't done enough to, respond quickly when it's intense.
You just have to show your sincerity.
Right.
You have to just show that you are genuine about your goals with that client. you know, your intent, that you want to, that her best interest is your genuine goal.
Yeah.
Okay, that all gets,
Appreciate it.
that gets conveyed, you know,
Okay.
it does get conveyed, and it shows in our actions, it shows in our approach, that their best interest is our goal. Okay, and
Yeah, that communication is really important for sure.
absolutely, you know, and you know, as much as she's willing to stick with you, you're going to be the most dedicated agent to her, because she's looking for this a certain barracuda. The barracudas are not dedicated to a single client, unless they're like, you know what I mean, like a repeat client that is buying like 4 or 5 inventory per year. If you're not, if you don't fit in that caliber, then, you know,
Yeah.
next best bet is to have someone that is fully dedicated to you. And that's what you're going to provide for them, right?
Yeah. I think she works in a law office. So it
Help you.
was a really intense conversation.
Yeah, I intentionally don't take on attorneys as clients. No, I'm kidding. I have attorneys, and I have, yes. At least you know that attorneys will look over the contract themselves as thoroughly, and really don't really need a whole lot of guidance in contracts. Okay, thank God for that. But
Yeah, she's very assertive. Yeah. I mean, I liked her. I felt like I buckled a little. Yeah. Like I didn't communicate well.
yeah, you just, you know, also just making sure I have confidence in yourself. That confidence in yourself is going to be also conveyed, right? Don't let one client sway you.
Don't
What?
worry about having all the answers. You have people like Christina. So if you don't know something, I've always pivoted and said, you know what? I want to make sure I give you the best answer possible. Let me get back to you on that. And that,
You say things so well too.
that conveys confidence, because then they're still confident, like you are looking out for their best, you know, asset, and then you're going to the resource. So they know that you're willing to do that too.
Yeah. So, you know, I, even as a seasoned agent, will go back and say, hey, you know what? Let me check on that, and I'll get back to you later today. Is that okay? And they'll say, yeah, sure. It's better than spitting out incorrect information. Always. And they'll respect you for it. Okay. So don't feel like it's a shortcoming at all. But do check on it and do get back to them that same day, and then that will assure them and gain that confidence. Okay. Just don't forget about it. That's the most next important thing. All right, people. As much as I love hanging out with you guys, I do have to get a business going. So I will talk to you guys on the next Ignite class, or when I see you around. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.